What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video. If you don't know who I am, that means you're new. I'm Mark. What's good with y'all? Go check out my other videos. Check them out. Check them out. Excuse me. Man, sorry about that, y'all. But first, stay on this one. So let's get right into it. This video is going to be kind of an interesting one. Some people might be wondering where I got the idea to even make this video. I mean, I don't want to go into detail about it, but in the end, part of the reason why I got the idea is because I was thinking about past videos I did. One of the reasons was, what long gun you should get first. I pretty much talked about, the pros and cons between rifles and shotguns for home defense, whatnot. And then not to mention some other bozo YouTuber kept just trying to argue against what I'm going to say next. So I'm just going to be here to drop my 2 cents and just disprove some people, because why not? All right. So handgun or shotgun for home defense, and why? So this is not to say that if you can only get one, this is what you should choose, because in the end, that's solely up to you. It's dependent on your situation. However, this more so is also going to be how I feel what you should go for first. So I'm going to get right into it. We're going to talk about the pros and cons of handguns and shotguns for home defense, and what I can English, what I would choose to go for first and why. So we're going to start with shotguns. So for the pros of shotguns, generally speaking, they hold a good bit more oomph to them when they hit the target. Now they deliver a good bit more energy. Some people are probably wondering, well, why is that? I mean, if you have seen how a double-aught buck in 12 gauge is broken down, you can understand why. So shotguns overall deliver more energy, depending on the round, I guess you could argue, because birdshot doesn't deliver that much energy. But besides the point, generally speaking, they deliver more energy. They are harder hitting. They can generally speaking stop the threat more likely in one round than a handgun round would. Now, the reason why I say generally speaking is because there are some handgun calibers that they will drop you with one shot too. Now, of course, it's a very rare, situation. It's a very, high pressured handgun caliber. However, that is something to always talk about as well. Now, with that pro, often means, hey, I'm not having to sit here and just keep mag dumping on somebody. You're dealing with the threat a good little bit quicker, sure. However, with that pro comes with a bunch of cons too. Now, the cons I want to discuss based off solely this one pro about how much energy and how much oomph that shotgun rounds can have compared to handgun rounds, we need to talk about recoil. Some of y'all, truthfully speaking, are recoil sensitive, whether you want to admit it or not. I mean, I'm telling you guys the truth here, and you can either accept it, you can deny it and push it away, but the truth is some of y'all are recoil sensitive, and it's whatever. What happens. There are shotgun calibers that would probably fit you, like, for example, 410. My whole point is simply that generally speaking, shotguns are going to have more recoil than a handgun would. Some people can make the argument, oh, well, you have that third point of contact, with the stock, it makes it easier. Yes, some people could make that argument. However, does that still mean that it has less recoil? No, it doesn't. There are very few shotguns that are going to have less recoil than handguns would. And, if you're going to make the argument, oh, yeah, well, let's go ahead and, say 410. Those would have less recoil than, say like a 44 Magnum revolver. Yeah, I'm sure to some level it would. But here's the problem. If you're going to go that low when it comes to a shotgun cartridge, we can also go that low when it comes to a handgun cartridge and just sit here and say, oh, yeah, well, what about 22 LR? Physically, no recoil pretty much. So I'm getting off topic here. I know. Back to the con, though, solely of the recoil. Shotguns do tend to have more recoil, which, one, makes it harder to control the gun, makes it harder to get more follow-up shots as quickly as possible. You're dealing with a couple of cons there solely from that one pro of the energy and the power that, generally speaking, shotgun calibers have over handgun calibers. Now, a longer barrel, can be a good thing as far as velocity goes, but in home defense, is it the best? Not exactly in this case. Some of y'all might be wondering what I'm referring to. Well, unless you are going out of your way to get a tax stamp, you're going out of your way to, I don't know, just either be a felon or, be a cuck, you probably don't have a short barreled shotgun because it's illegal. And the minimum requirement that your barrel be for your shotgun is 18 inches. I hate to break this to you guys, maneuverability with a shotgun for home defense is not going to be your best bet, generally speaking. It is possible, don't get me wrong. It is possible, but is it the most optimal? Not exactly. Now, once again, guys, I'm not sitting here just going to, talk mad, just disrespect shotguns as a whole, say they're awful for home defense. That's not what I'm saying at all. I am saying for a fact that they can be used very well for home defense. It's just there are some cons that you do have to look at. Now, moving on, this is my final con for shotguns for home defense. Generally speaking, the only pro that they really need, I'm just going to be the person to say it, the only pro shotguns really need is the fact that they pretty much can 100% stop somebody with one shot. If you hit somebody with, let's say, some 12 gauge buckshot, they're pretty much going to go down. The chances of them staying up is almost zero. I'm sure on some level, there's some situations where, there's an exception to that rule, but I still believe that's a pretty good general rule for a reason. Back to what I was saying though, my final con for shotguns for home defense is the capacity. Generally speaking, and I say generally speaking because once again, there are exceptions to the rule. There are a couple of shotguns that do hold a pretty high capacity for a shotgun. Generally speaking, handguns are going to have a much better capacity than shotguns would. Shotguns don't have that great of a capacity. And once again, is that the biggest concern, considering the fact that if you do hit one round on somebody, they're probably going to go down. They're almost guaranteed to. No, that's not the biggest concern because once again, with that amount of power, that pro just of how much energy that a shotgun round can deliver compared to a handgun round, it doesn't negate all the cons, but it definitely, that pro does stand up a bit more to me than how all the cons stacked together do. But once again, I'm not going to sit there and harp on all the cons on shotguns because once again, it does have a pretty solid pro. Moving on though, we're going to talk about the pros and cons of handguns for maneuverability. Sorry, home defense. The first one I was going to start with is maneuverability. Sorry, y'all. We're gonna start with some pros and cons here. So, number one for the pro is maneuverability. You can maneuver around your house, clear your house much easier with a handgun than you can a shotgun. That's something I kind of touched on a little bit earlier, but didn't go into full detail on. So, when you go ahead and turn a corner, right, and you have a shotgun, once again, unless you go out of your way to, pay that tax stamp, get cucked out, or pretty much risk being a felon, you don't have a short barrel shotgun. Your shotgun barrel length minimum is 18 inches. Compared to, you can even argue against, I don't know, if you're really going to try to make an argument for a large normal caliber handgun, but larger, I guess you could argue the Glock 17L, which I believe is like a 5-inch barrel length. So, regardless, no matter what, handguns are going to be much easier to maneuver when it comes to a home defense situation because you are probably going to have to clear your home in a home defense situation, whether you like it or not. Like, I'm sorry, but truth be told, let's say somebody kicked in the door, right? I woke up right then and there, right when they kicked in the door, and I went out and handled business. I'm still going to clear my house to make sure there's nobody else that was with them. I'm not going to sit there and just, hang out and watch things. I'm going to have to clear my house still because if somebody else is there, that's a threat waiting to, have to be handled with, I guess. So maneuverability, big deal. Big pro that handguns have over shotguns. Next is capacity. So once again, let's say you're not even going to sit here and do what I do sometimes, where you just have an extended magazine on, on your home defense handgun. Let's say you're just going to go with your standard capacity magazine, whatever capacity magazine comes with the gun, right? Even with something like a Glock 43X, you have a better capacity. You have more rounds of 9mm than you do, generally speaking, with almost every shotgun. And this isn't me advocating for getting a Glock 43X for home defense. But my whole point is simply that, generally speaking, most people get full-size handguns for home defense. Full size. You're looking at a capacity of bare minimum 15 or more. I mean, unless you're looking at something like a Glock 21 where it's 13 plus 1, but close enough. My point simply is that the capacity that handguns hold over shotguns, that's not something you can just overlook, sweep under the rug. You can't just do that. The reason why that is because, let's say you're in a shootout, you have a handgun, the person who's shooting at you has a shotgun. If they don't hit you, all they have to do is sit there and pull that trigger on average 5-6 times, and they're out. They're out. How many rounds do you have left? You can have however many really you want, depending on the magazine you have. But once again, we'll go with the standard magazines for, generally speaking, a full-size gun. Even if you fired the same amount of rounds back, you still have 9 rounds left on you on average. So those 9 rounds are 9 extra chances to save your life. So capacity is not something we can ever really overlook. Now, something I do want to bring up, I should have brought this up kind of with the maneuverability pro. However, you live, you learn. Some things come to mind. It's going to be also pretty easy when it comes to, handguns for home defense over a shotgun for home defense. Let's say you have children in the home and you need to go grab them. It's going to be pretty damn hard to, hold on to a child and hold on and use your shotgun. It's going to be pretty easy to grab onto your child and still shoot at somebody with a handgun. Sorry, that's something I just thought of. I really wanted to bring that up. Now, back to the capacity. With this capacity pro, though, there is a con, and this con I kind of touched on already. However, the con is that handgun rounds, generally speaking, are not going to have enough energy to even compare to a shotgun round. Now, yes, that is a pretty fair argument. But I believe that's why you get more rounds. I think that's one of the great things about it is, if I'm not going to be able to stop somebody in 1 or 2 rounds, I at least want to be able to have more rounds and more chances to try to stop them. You see what I mean? Now, overall, one thing I can say that, I do like about at least both platforms is that you can pretty much always find a way to get a flashlight onto your shotgun. You can pretty much always find a way to get a flashlight onto your handgun. So I can't sit here and act like either of those are pros or cons for either or, as they both have them. Let me see here. I'm trying to think really if there's anything else, that would be a pro or a con for the handguns. Because generally speaking, I mean, you got a lot of pros here for handguns. You got a pretty big con, though. And that big con, it really stands up there. However, with shotguns, you got a lot of cons, but a pretty big pro. And that pretty big pro kind of stands up there. You see what I mean? It's a difficult argument for people to make here. And I can see why it's become such a topic of discussion, is my biggest point to say, I guess. However, the biggest argument I guess I could say, or my biggest takeaway from, my research on this is, what I would do, generally speaking, is go for the handgun first. The reason why that is that, one, it's going to be quicker to reload. Oh, you know what? That's a pro I should have thought of. I'm a bozo. Generally speaking, handguns are going to be quicker to reload. Drop the mag, put a new mag in, rack the slide, you're good. Generally speaking, though, beyond the fact that they are quicker to reload, more maneuverable, it's lighter, easier on recoil. That's something that not a lot of people want to sit here and admit, but they are a little recoil sensitive. So some of y'all don't need shotguns for home defense. Get them, by all means, practice with them, get better. But, that's probably not going to be your best bet. Uh, but overall, I would go for the handgun first. You go for the handgun. Worst comes to worst, you use what you have in your handgun. You have to retreat and get a bigger gun. That's worst comes to worst. Now, is this to say that shotguns are bad for home defense? No. Is this to say that handguns are the best for home defense? No. Truth be told, out of the two, I would probably go for probably a handgun, but if I didn't have to choose between those two, I would probably go for a rifle. You know, but that's just me. Overall, though, I think that about wraps it up for this video. I don't want to sit here and keep going in circles. I think it's kind of funny because with handguns and shotguns, you're complete opposites. You're getting the best of the opposite worlds pretty much. It's kind of hard to explain. But overall, y'all make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that bell. When you hit that bell, hit all. And whether or not you agree with me on this one, comment down below your opinions on this, whether you would choose a shotgun over a handgun for home defense or a handgun over a shotgun for home defense. Let me know why. I think it's kind of interesting that the pros and cons kind of are parallel to each other in a sense. You know what I mean? the shotgun has all these little cons that stack up, but one big pro that pretty much stands tall. And then with handguns, you have all these little pros that stack up, and then one big con that stands tall. I think that's kind of neat. Y'all make sure to check out all my other videos. Y'all make sure to stay legal, stay safe, stay dangerous. Have a good one, y'all. Peace.